Bad Mary, as always, for that too sweet play-in. Welcome all you four-color funny book aficionados. This is U.S. Comics Cast, your HQ for all things comic book related. I am the five-star man, John Rivera, CEO and co-founder of U.S. Comics. I don't know
None
if
of
it's
that was
just
heard.
me,
I
Charlie.
am your COO. That's what happens when it's on a Thursday and we're live. That's how you know we're live. I'm your COO. I am your co-host. I am your co-founder. I am the all-elite man,
Charlie
Rivera, baby.
the Charlie Chaplin of the podcasting world. I fully expect you to have a Hitler mustache, bowler hat, and giant oversized Ronald McDonald shoes for next week.
I can promise you one thing, my friend, and I'll promise you people one thing. None of that shit's going to happen. I'm not even going to acknowledge that I forgot to unmute my mic.
Oh my goodness.
Not only that, I totally forgot to take down the wallpaper once the countdown started. So I'm all thumbs McGillicuddy. It turns out if you drink all day and go to like a 9-hour event, you're not your best the next day. That's just a fun fact.
For anyone who was wondering, Charlie Vera is the worst.
You know
Charlie,
what? When you're right, you're right.
Here we are.
Yes.
Comic book day. Indeed, it is Thursday.
Thirsty Thursday.
Messing everybody up, in particularly ourselves. But you know what? I'll ask you anyway. Besides the obvious fuck ups, how are you, buddy?
You know what? Despite said fuck ups, man, I'm the best I've been in a long time. It's been a rough 19 months, obviously, for everybody. But the whole time, this whole 19 months, I was waiting to go to the Prudential Center where the enemy plays, to go to Jersey, of all places.
Great place,
to
I
see
hear.
my favorite wrestling company do my favorite thing, which is the grapples and the slaps and the yelling at each other. And hot damn, did I have a good time. I was all but in the ring. It was everything I could have wanted for a comic book day. The only way it could have been better is if they let me just do the podcast on the ramp. Be like, wait, we'll start the show late.
And they almost kind of insisted that you didn't. Like security was
very
called
rude,
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like who do you have to be on a security guard level to be the security at a damn wrestling event? Where like it's muscles upon muscles. Just like, choke slams waiting to happen. You're a security guard, Maron.
What I loved about it was there was like the Prudential Center security, which God bless were like our mother's age and in very, very baggy security jackets. Then there were like the AEW security guys that sat kind of on the inside, and those guys were just mountains of people.
Yeah.
I was like, that guy's clearly a wrestler,
AKA
who like had an ACL tear.
Wrestlers that didn't work out.
Exactly.
They work out. Jacket out.
They work out. They just couldn't cut a promo because this guy looked like the bear. It was freaking awesome. But
very nice.
You had an equally elite day because you hung out with my fur baby. You hung out with my little pup Jameson.
Indeed, we did, and we did a little wrestling action in honor of his parents' all elite comic book day. And I'll say this: as we fought over the singular pill between us, Jameson is indeed the champion. Jameson won. And I only give credit to really his trainer, Mighty Mick Charlie, because he knew what he was doing. It was embarrassing. But all being said, Charlie's awesome John List comic book day notwithstanding, that was not the only thing. That was not the only rumor that I was hearing when I put
a little bit of
my ear to the rails.
a little bit of rumor and innuendo. It's like an innuendo, but it's nerdier.
We're going to give that a minute. We're going to go ahead. Oh, we're getting requests coming in the hotline.
Thanks for putting that over.
Turn
Thanks
Charlie's
for putting that over for me.
Back off.
All right.
Yes,
yeah, no,
we'll consider it. But yes, indeed, this week, Charlie, I'm sure that you noticed it as well. There's hey, Longbeard Gaming in the house. What's up, Chris? How are you, buddy? Charlie, if you are like me, I'm sure that you caught the wind in the willows of all this goody good news. Potentially,
it is
because we do want to put the asterisk on it. If these rumors are true, these are beautiful rumors.
There's a beautiful moment before our wonderful 4-color funnies drop. There's a beautiful moment before we see that last trailer, buy our popcorn and sit down in front of the big or small screen. There's this perfect moment where everything could be the best thing ever, and that's why I love rumors.
It's the beauty of potential, right? Because
exactly right.
When they throw out, hey, what about this? What about that? Instantly, your mind doesn't rush to, oh, I hope that doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Or I hope they don't bungle this job. I mean, speaking for myself, clearly I live in the land of optimism. Duh, look at all these toys. So when I hear something's coming, like West Side Story, I know it's going to have a happy ending, right? Everybody? Romeo and Juliet, happy ending? No?
I mean,
anyways.
for me.
So Charlie, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. Let's play a little bit of Serena and Bill that's back and forth. First and first, mostly, I heard a rumor and I instantly thought of Charlie Boy, because when we were talking all things Marvel, what if, the first thing that came out of Charlie's bubbling lips was, what if I like it, but then there's no more. It's like I go to a restaurant and I have a meal, and it's a great meal, and then they shutter and lock the doors of the restaurant behind me and shut it down. And I said, Charlie, damn it, you damn millennial punk. That's the beauty of the What If comics. They were one and done. And the show, Dagnabbit, is going to be exactly the same. One and done. Like it, love it, hate it.
Exactly the same. Like the first episode was just a cut and paste of some shit I already saw. Whatever.
But, Charlie, I heard a rumor that might make you a little damn happy.
Tell me now.
I heard a rumor that the What If Marvel series might be giving us sequels to those fire episodes. And you know, it's funny. I got to admit it right now myself. Watching the show religiously, like I do, the stingers at the end of those episodes, I never gave them credence of, oh shit, something else is coming after the fact. I just thought that it was a little cute wink and a nod to the Marvel movies, and obviously most recently the shows. That's what Marvel does. That's their stamp on the product. Little stinger for hanging around past a couple of the main credits. But no, Charlie. It turns out there's a very real possibility that we are going to get continuations of these damn what if stories. I got to ask you two questions. Have you heard that? And what do you think about it?
I was living under the suspicion that they were going to cherry pick from it, but I'm always nervous.
That is your negative naysaying nature.
It's true.
Coming out on top and winning the title, holding the belt over your damn head, and I hate it.
Sorry. My forward thinking of like, can someone make more money? And also the minute that Funko was like, here's every zombie version, Funko, I was like, these mother suckers know something I don't.
Does not mess around. They were like, some of those Funko Pops for the What Ifs came out before the particular issues issues. The episodes dropped. I'm like, oh shit! I guess this is coming or that's coming. So I don't want to get too deep into the the what if series because I do think that we should talk about it collectively once it wraps. But at least as far as the what ifs that you have seen thus far, give me one what if episode that Charlie Rivera COO is desperate for a sequel to.
You know, and this might, some people might consider this sacrilegious.
I mean, probably you're a pretty sacrilegious
I
guy.
truly want to see more, and obviously they'd have to recast the voice actor, unfortunately. But I'm thirsty for more T'Challa as Star-Lord. I
don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
I think the best way to pay tribute to the first guy to breathe life into the live action version of T'Challa, and by extension that iteration of Black Panther, I think it's to keep it in front of us the same way that no one, regardless of Sam Wilson now being Captain America, when people think Captain America, to some extent they're going to think Chris Evans. But regardless of whether or not
let me interrupt you. Is it that you want to see more of that what if world, that variant world? Because we've lost the actor, or because you were into that particular
I just
what
think
if?
it was such an interesting take on this.
Gotcha.
One small change can affect everything.
Well,
we're seeing it.
Here's the thing, and this is that butterfly effect that they like to talk about. I'm not sure who, but somebody I'm sure does.
What's his name from that 70s show?
It is Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah.
It is truly one of those things when you go back and think of the episode and say, okay, how would this wrap up? Because it's interestingly enough, the T'Challa as Star-Lord arc of it all, they pretty much said, I mean, they said a lot. He's basically like the galaxy's most popular fucking guy. However, a certain ego planet in human form fucking does at the end of that episode come across a certain son of his, Peter Quill, but now not as a child. Now he comes across him as an adult who has not had that luxury of touring the galaxy, under the tutelage of a certain mohawked individual with a magical science arrow. Who knows where that story could potentially go? So that's a good pill. That's a good pull by you. Now I'm gonna go ahead and respond to your initial shitting on that first episode. I would personally love to see more of the Captain Carter story arc.
Just hold
if
a
anything,
cardboard cut out of her face,
zip
over Steve,
your lips,
and just
wrap it up,
nonsense.
and flush it down the toilet. Zip it up, because I would love to see, just to shut up naysayers like yourself. It's such a dynamite like imagine if aspect to that story arc, to get it further away from the events of World War II and get it further away from like, okay, well, this is just the same, a very similar scenario that Steve had to go through. Now, though, it's a very, very different, because one might argue that not only was she as successful as the shield bearer in that particular instance, one could get in front of the Supreme Court and say she was damn better, because look at the end result. She was still standing tall
the internet
at the end of that. Well, you know what?
Love a
Internet,
female doing the
come at me. You can slide into my DMs. You can email. You can give me a knock knock. I'm on the second floor. But Charlie, I'm gonna throw it back to you right away. Over the net. Charlie, throw a rumor at me that you've heard.
I'm gonna do it with
titillated.
I'm gonna do it with the exact same Umbrella Academy cadence that you used.
All right.
I heard a rumor.
Nice.
I heard a rumor that the internet went crazy this week over the tag that's going to be at the end of Venom 2, which almost undoubtedly will be a shit movie.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
You know what? I'll throw it up just in case. But I heard...
All right, plug your ear holes, guys.
I heard a rumor that preceded the actual people who got to see it. So this rumor came out hours before this public viewing.
So no actual real details.
Correct. But the rumor I heard was that the film ends and finally and completely and definitively not only shows Spider-Man in this universe, but specifically shows that already the symbiote, not a fan. So the rumor extended out to the events of
The symbiote or Eddie Brock?
the symbiote specifically.
Symbiote?
Symbiote. I'm gonna use the pronunciation from the first shit movie.
You're gonna use Homegirl's
Yeah, 'cause I
money,
love her.
please.
'Cause-
that is the thirstiest shit you have done in 137 episodes.
If it's good
She
enough for Captain
doesn't
America
want
for a
this
couple
show, bro.
years, if it's good enough for Captain America for like a year and a half, it's good enough for me.
Look, I don't know who you think you are. This is not like my situation where I'm just gonna throw out Melissa Villaseñor stuff all the time, knowing that eventually she's gonna come across it and watch this. That's like that's planting a seed. Like you're just pissing in the wind, but I'll let you continue.
You know what? Every now and then feels good to piss in the wind. But I heard that the events of Multiverse of Madness, the events of Spider-Man 3, Electric Boogaloo, I heard all of that winds up with Peter no longer in the MCU, being completely removed, completely Sony's.
No way.
And I heard that the tag to Venom solidifies that.
I
And
don't believe it.
we're finally gonna get Tom Holland's Spider-Man,
Interestingly
Tom
enough,
Hardy's
though,
Venom.
I can definitely see that happening. I can see Venom putting a little black shiny toe into the MCU world more so than I can see Peter being pulled out.
I don't think the MCU is gonna want to borrow any of that crap from those.
Well, if they've proven
well-intentioned
anything,
disasters.
it proves that they can clean up anything, because the first takes on the Hulk were really not viewed as particularly successful, even though Norton's Hulk really is the first movie in that chain, which we proved to be the case by seeing a certain fishy-headed individual in Shang-Chi. But that's pretty interesting. I don't particularly believe it. Also, I gotta say, just real quick, another thing that I don't quite believe was the fucking reviews for this 90-minute of Venom flick have been incredibly positive.
Yeah, but the fact that the biggest news story out of it is like, you gotta wait after the credits speaks volumes.
The one review, and I make it a point to not really read reviews and put any credence into them. I was just, it was more like a morbid curiosity, because it was 90 minutes. You're already starting by saying, like, we don't have much to say. So I was just so curious. I'm like, who's saying anything good about this? And the first review I saw was, I loved the first one. It's my favorite MCU Mick. I'm like, all right, well,
like, okay, well, but that's what you ask for. You want people before their review to have any sort of credit. You want them to, on Front Street. That should be an easy question. What's your favorite superhero movie? If it's that, okay, great.
But you know what, though, that you're exactly right, because what it did was it put a value marker on the rest of the sentence
of -6, because oof magoof, the lobster tank scene.
So just really, and I'm gonna take it.
Left.
I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna go with my mind blower right off the fucking cuff,
please.
because I don't want to run out of time.
5 minutes left, so let's do this.
I heard a rumor, and I do not give this particular. I'll say this: I'm not gonna hold my breath for this to happen. However, whether it is by the gentleman who put it out there, or by someone else who picks it up and runs with it, because it is such a dynamite idea, and this is coming from me, from John Rivera, the CEO. Apparently, in an interview, a certain talented writer-director called Quentin Tarantino, in regards to his upcoming 10th and final movie, put something out there that just shook me to my core. And he said, you know what? He's still knocking around what his 10th and final project would be. Then he went on to say, I know if I wanted, though, to make just a good movie, a movie that I knew people would really dig, that it would just be good. I don't know if this would be the one I'm going to do, but I know that it would be good if I did it. He said he would do a reboot of First Blood. And he went on to say that in his reboot of First Blood, certain gentleman named Kurt, who he's worked with in the past, would be playing the sheriff. And a certain young man who we know from many such projects that are floating around, but probably most would know as the son of a certain Captain Han Solo and Princess Jedi Master Leia Organa Solo, Adam Driver would play in his reboot the titular character of John Rambo. And if any of you guys had the pleasure,
sounds awesome.
If you had the pleasure of reading David Morrell's book, you'll know the book and the movie are two wildly different animals, right? That was a project. That book turning into a movie took fucking forever, and they had a ton of people attached to it, and then it didn't work out. And it wasn't until Sly Stallone coming off of Ellis, you sound terrible. Sly Stallone coming off of his success with Rocky and looking for a project that the damn thing got made. But that being said, my boy, the Italian stallion, the namesake of my youngest puppy, Sylvester Stallone, would not be left out in the cold. He wouldn't be walking down that long road when you're on your own. No.
Don't say it.
Stallone
is he playing
would be brought in to play Colonel Troutman.
Oh, yes!
Baby. Boy, oh boy, that was, for me, as a gentleman who loves the source material, the book was dynamite. But I'll be the first one to tell you, hopefully, that the book and the movie were very different. And what Quentin Tarantino said was that he particularly loved about this saga of a Vietnam vet making his way in a world that was not ready to accept him was the dialogue, which sounds a hell of a lot like something our boy Kev Smith would say.
Fuck yes.
The fucking dialogue in the book is dynamite. Kurt Russell, Adam Driver, Sylvester Stallone reboot of First Blood, I would be all in for. And I will tell you this, regardless of how well it did, there would not be a sequel. It wouldn't happen.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say about that. But I'll also say I don't think that that's going to be Quentin Tarantino's final flick.
Well,
I do think, though, someone will be like me and say, you know what? That sounds tasty as fuck. I don't care what Ellis has to say. Let's make that happen.
That actually lines up with one of the rumors I pulled up for this week, which was that Quentin Tarantino is planning to cheat the system because that count of 10 films considers Kill Bill 1 and 2 one flick. And what I read this week was that he absolutely does have a treatment for Kill Bill Volume 3, and that will actually be his final released film after his number 10, because what he wants to do is he wants to do a film with lower stakes. He wants to do something akin to a superhero movie, akin to a property, and that lines up beautifully with it. I have one more very lightning quick one.
Do it, man.
And that's the next Spider-Man flick won't just have Tobey Maguire reprising his role. It won't only have, what's-his-face, the name's currently eluding me, reprise his role from your Spider-Man films, but it's going to have a scene where we see
Tobey Maguire, are you talking about?
Not Tobey Maguire. Who is the other one?
Andrew Garfield?
Andrew Garfield. Sorry, Andrew. Not only are they going to
Andrew
cameo...
definitely watches this show. It's fine.
Not only are they going to cameo in it, but also as well as we are going to see no less than 10 or 15 iterations of Spider-Man. And every single one of them that is unmasked is going to be someone we know. So the big rumors were Leo DiCaprio, Matt Damon. They are showing up in this film as Spider-Mans for nothing more than a blink, and you'll miss it. The rumor was...
Gonna be like a Hook situation where you're like, oh, look at this, look at that.
What the director did was he, in essence, took every name that has ever been attached to a potential Spider-Man film, reached out to them to get them to cameo, got suits designed that are mostly CG, so you literally just throw them in the with the little dots, and then you fill it in after the fact. Oscar Isaac is Scarlet Spider-Man. Great. Throw him the fuck out there. We got the green suit.
If they really wanted to make me happy, give me a live action Spider-Ham. Like I want an actual pig actor, because pigs have chops, man.
It's just Babe hasn't worked in years.
Come on.
But
that'll do, Spider-Ham. That'll do.
Now, the one last rumor I heard that was absolute, I couldn't trust it.
Doubling down.
I heard you were coming back for the Spider-Man franchise. There was going to be another graduation scene, and we were going to get focused. But I heard it from a bona fide liar. I heard it from actually the man himself. I heard it from George Lucas, and we all know you can't trust George, because we all know one fact. Without question, as factual as it is every week, there's going to be an episode of US Comics Cast. It's also a fact.
Sometimes late, but it'll happen.
It's true. It's a fact that Han shot first.
Han shot first, damn it. Clink.
Salute.
Salute indeed.
Woo! All right, my dude. Get ready. Put me let me set my stuff so I don't run over. And start my time. Boop. I vote, just to bounce off of Carolyn in our Facebook chat section. Not only do I want John Mulaney doing the voice, if we can't get a pig to play Spider-Ham, I want him to have to mocap the whole thing. And just like on his knees.
You know he would. Obviously, as we all know, Mulaney's a good friend of Charlie and myself.
It's fact.
So, Carolyn, we could probably make a call and make it happen. If we get Mulaney, though, considering how much we steal from him every single week, we got to get Kroll in there somehow, too.
I don't know what you're talking about. But first and first, mostly for my segment, this week, I got to be honest, I complain all the time about how shows drop nowadays. Week after week, episode after episode, I come here and I go, how dare someone try there's two things I hate in this world. I hate when someone tries to defend George Lucas in our comment section. I find it repugnant and disgusting, and frankly, I find it unnecessary. And also,
unless you stick to your guns, man. He's all talk.
I hate when a show comes out that has an easy to access streaming service like a Hulu, like an HBO Max, and you're gonna give me one episode at a time. I'm not saying everything has to binge. What I'm saying is you give me an episode or two. I'm just asking, let me dive in, especially if it's one of those thinkers, right? One of those shows that wants to say something. They want to give you some vegetables with your candy. You can't just, the first hour episode is all set up and then I don't see anything interesting. I'm not going to watch your shit show. That's why.
Has anyone handed you a plate of vegetables with candy?
I would argue that cheese is food candy. So I've been handed broccoli.
He's like, does candied ham count?
So my brain doesn't work so good. Might be. But
hey, at least your mic is on. Well, you got that going for you.
My good friends over at FX knew exactly what to do when they dropped Why the Last Man. I have to ask you, my friend, have you checked it out on FX yet?
I have.
They gave us a movie plus. They dropped 3 episodes, about an hour long each. I gotta tell you, I'll start off here. I know that in recent years, Why the Last Man, which is widely considered one of the greatest, it's not an indie book because it's from Vertigo, but non-mainstream comic.
Yeah,
it's considered one of the best of all times. When Vertigo shut down...
I mean, mostly because of our promoting it, because we have been swinging from Why the Last Man Schwartz since like day 1, episode 1.
I mean, again...
So I take full credit.
For no less than 30 years, you've been talking about eventually replacing me with a monkey sidekick.
Oh my God, that is the dream.
Just the fact that Ampersand exists, our boy's monkey friend, who's also got a Y chromosome. The comic book in recent years has been a bit under attack because they didn't really handle things in hindsight, which is always a blessing to be 2020. There's some stuff that's controversial from the Why the Last Man, especially the early volumes. However, I'm going to start us there
Okay.
even taking into account the controversy.
Well,
Why the
for
you?
anybody, well, I don't
Please
think that
take it
we should just
away.
make assumptions. So, anyone who has not watched the show as of yet, I think Charlie and I are clearly in agreement here. Watch it. It is so worth it. But the basic premise of the Charlie's either pouring himself a drink or taking a pee
It
on
can be.
camera.
It can be
Either
both.
one is entertaining. Why the Last Man, post-apocalyptic type story. There's a mysterious cataclysmic event. It literally wipes out every mammal with a Y chromosome, meaning that you have a world in which a world which is entirely populated
In a
by
world.
females, and then just very conveniently for that Y chromosome gimmick, you have a young gentleman by the name of Yorick Brown. And again, Charlie mentioned his adorable pet monkey, ampersand. Um, I always kind of did get a Friends vibe, with that scenario. I'm like, if he worked at the Museum of Natural History, it would be a total Ross situation. But that being said, it is a dynamite premise for a comic book. Like this was a comic book where you picked up like there's no capes here, there's no tights, there's no laser beams, there's no kryptonite. What the hell? There's not even any zombies, and this is post-apocalyptic. What the hell's going on? So setup of both the comic and the show. But you know what though? I'll go ahead and throw it right back to Charlie. I was definitely getting that zombie Walking Dead vibe of the world that they created. Not so much in the visuals, but this is a world creating event, and if it gets you right there, that the show is doing, I should say, an amazing job of throwing us in the mix.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think what I appreciated most about the comic is the comic book in true Vertigo fashion. By the end of the first volume, has already gone to bonkers avenue. There was a certain expectation. They've been trying to adapt Y for a very, very long time. I first started hearing about it right around volume 3 or 4 of the trades being released. Is that volume 1?
This was the first, literally
Beautiful.
the first trade. And just so that, just in our best LeVar Burton moment, if we can continue the strong work that my man has done, and do like a comic book version of Reading Rainbow, this would be a good way to start in our. But you don't have to take my word for it. Literally on the comic, winner of 3 Eisner Awards, but maybe the greatest comic book recommendation that I've ever heard of in my life, coming from a man who is a master of a genre, but also as well as whose son writes comics. Not this one though. Stephen King, of all people, said that this was the best graphic novel I've ever read. And Joe Hill cried himself to sleep that night. I'll tell you what.
I first of all, I love that, and if they want to bring back Reading Rainbow, but it's comics, I will produce
I'm
the shit out of it.
I am available. I'll even wear a Geordie LaForge visor.
Just mix and match.
Yeah, I don't care.
His work.
I'll
Yeah,
fucking do Jeopardy questions, whatever you want me to do. You can even whip the shit out of me and fucking call me Kunta if you want.
canceled, and he's canceled,
All right,
ladies and gentlemen.
good run, folks.
So hell of a run. 2 seasons on the third. Yeah, I'll be looking for a new co-host. It won't be Ellis because he's trying to get canceled in every comment section.
Yeah, well.
With all of that being said, the comic book absolutely batshit crazy. What I loved about Y and the way I always described it to everyone is it really does set you up in a world where almost at the end of every issue, you're like, oh shit, what's going to happen next? I have expectations.
He's a real pickle.
But 3 hours into FX's version of Y the Last Man, and I have to be totally honest, it is equal parts nothing like what I expected.
Okay.
Also, as well as it's wonderful. I really do love it. As of right now, it's very much its own thing, meaning it took the idea, took the widest versions of the concepts, fixed some stuff up, repackaged it. There's, to me right now, it feels like it started off a lot more with the political stuff. It feels very much like an all ladies West Wing. It has those Walking Dead vibes, the great seasons, the great episodes of Walking Dead where you're enthralled
Those
by what they're
early ones
talking
where you're like,
about.
what's gonna happen next?
And
And you know
knowing,
what? Just really quickly before I
please,
forget, because I will forget,
it's
when
true.
you were talking about like the political spectrum,
Mhm.
part of the program, and you made kind of a passing reference to it. Here we are in September of 2021, and transgender is a term that is used more now than I would say maybe ever in the history of the recorded word, and rightfully so. And the comic did take a little bashing around the head and neck because of its take on that
I mean,
reality,
yeah,
and rightfully
the
so.
story lends itself to that being a key
Well, that
component.
again, in this current climate, that becomes the first question. So if I came to you and say, Charlie, I have a great idea for a comic book, you'd say,
Whoa,
another
whoa,
one,
whoa, whoa,
John.
whoa.
And then I'd say, yeah. And then I went on to explain to
With
you this
that
premise.
enthusiasm too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Your first question, if you were a logical thinking person, which clearly you are sometimes, would say, well, okay, well, what about transgender? And at the time that it was originally written, that wasn't necessarily, and I'm not saying that it was an inconceivable thought. It just wasn't on the forefront of people's thinking at that particular time. So while it was a misstep completely, I would say that it was kind of one of those like, it's an understandable misstep. Now if you're part of the demographic, you're going to say, hey, fuck you, man, that was my first thought. I totally understand that, and you're beautiful and I support you. The point that Charlie wants to make is that here we are now in September 2021. We can fix that because we have a new version of the first days of this concept, and it has clearly been addressed, which I thought was so smart.
Yeah, they did a brilliant job of. I don't. A lot of times the word like skirting an issue is meant
Because they're
derogative.
all women and they got to wear skirts. That's
No,
what you're
sir.
saying. Charlie's
Um,
canceled.
it's used in a derogatory way, skirting an issue. With that being said, I actually think FX has done a masterful job of having a show about politics right now in America without setting it to be in the 80s. It's very much, the show feels like it takes place right this second. Um and it's playing with aspects of the political parties, and it's so goddamn interesting because I won't lie, at the end of episode 1, I had two main thoughts. I went, "Man, did they clean up this intro of our titular character? They really made it more concise. They made some things that were a little bit, just the relationship with him and his girlfriend made more literal sense. It felt like the stakes were higher somehow. It really tells you who everyone is. Matt, in like 20 minutes, I knew everyone's personality,
Yeah.
ampersand included.
They set it up for they set it up for storytelling, right? It's like you can't play the board game until all the little pieces are where they belong, and the cards are filed and flipped and in their right spot, and the pieces are all lined up, and you got your racing car and I got the wheelbarrow for some damn reason, I don't know. But yeah, and that's the type of stuff that like needs to get done. We often will talk about the credits opening. Most
Oh yeah, yeah.
superhero, most comic book stories that that need to be relayed, you can get the setup. Again, we mention it pretty regularly. The Hulk TV show starring Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby, that was to us the quintessential credits opening. Within the credits, directed by, written by, they were able to tell us in little snippets the entire setup of what we can expect. And for a TV show, 22 minutes, you better get that shit out of the way nice and quick, because you're not going to have much running time to do exposition. Otherwise,
Yeah.
this show, they did it beautifully as well. Was it opening credits? No, but they did it quickly enough where now you have multiple episodes of the rest of this first, hopefully of many seasons, where you can just tell the fucking story. If this happened, what happens next?
I also really loved and respected the fact that they put them back to back, knowing that the first episode had a lot of world building. That
Set
they were
up,
like,
yeah.
don't worry. What I found, some of this stuff, and obviously, again, you kind of said it right at the top. This is clearly one of those adaptations that, while it's making a lot of changes, and I don't live in a world where I have to say which I like better. The comic book is a special place in my heart.
Which one did you like better?
Shut your mouth. I do think so far my two main thoughts were, fuck, this is quality. The acting is quality in this fucking show. And the other thing I thought was, like, this is not nearly as bonkers. When I describe Y: The Last Man to people, I'm out of breath, sweating, and I've only explained the first volume. Like, the end of the first volume, which at first I assumed would be like the first season, can't at this point, in my opinion, because there is so much crazy shit
Sure.
that they just haven't touched. So my question to you,
Yes.
without going too crazy into spoilers, at least about the show, we can spoil the shit out of the comic. Do you think they're gonna go all in with most of their concepts for Y: The Last Man? Do you think we're gonna see Amazons? Do we think we're gonna see people trying to sell our literal guy? You know what I mean? How crazy? Because I'll tell you right off the bat, one of the things in volume one,
it's funny that's your first reaction, is like kind of taking in the unwitting comparison of the comic to the adaptation. I understand that's one of those things. It's like two meals at the same restaurant. You can't help but like, this one was better or that one was better,
Yeah.
or which I like, which I preferred. But it's funny. It never occurred to me. I'm like, I wonder if they'll do this, or I wonder if they'll do that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's just, for me, already I've seen. I feel like the world can very comfortably go either way, which is so exciting, because a lot of times when comic book movies or comic book adaptations make it too realistic, despite the crazy kind of circumstances,
realistic, except for this one fucking thing.
Yeah. What I found myself, not in a positive or a negative way, because right now they have me bought in enough that I trust what they're doing.
Well, that's you know what, you fucking nailed it on the head, because
thank you.
The one comparison, the most direct comparison of that, will they, won't they, over here it looked like this, over here what are they gonna do, was fucking Sweet Tooth. So Sweet Tooth as a comic was very, very specific, kind of the agenda and the story that it was telling, and the way that it went about telling it. Whereas the show, I mean, except for the antlers, someone could be forgiven from saying, oh shit, that's right, that comic book, right? Unless you listen to this show, which again, we are just knocking it out of the park with the recommendations. Clearly, we can be trusted. Well, you heard it here first, most of you. Sweet Tooth was one to be looking for. If you enjoyed it, you're welcome.
If you didn't enjoy it, you were fucking wrong.
If you didn't enjoy it, your name is Ellis. And I would have to talk to you. Once again, we'd have to talk to you about a certain bearded lying son of a bitch. But my point ultimately is this: the way that they're going about telling the story, and the version of the story, that they're able to pick and choose, not cherry pick, but pick and choose which which arc to follow, and the variants that they've created in adapting it. I'm living in a place of trust. I'm like, yep, I like what you've shown me so far. Show me the rest.
It's so refreshing to really have. It's not that I've never had the experience before. That would be disingenuous because a lot of stuff take very big liberties. I'll kick it back to Chris Reeve, his amazing first Superman film. That was in a time where in the comics, Clark Kent was a television news reporter. There was no newspaper, and they went old school for the flick because they felt it would be more cinematic. And by and large, they were right, especially since it turned out that they would return, the comic books would borrow from the movie after its success. This is an example of why The Last Man, or it even has me thinking of like in a universe where eventually we're going to go back to the well on stuff that's now new. We've had so many Batman adaptations. We're getting a new one soon. We're going to live in a world where we're probably 5-6 years away from a Walking Dead reboot. And you could really take that shit in a different direction now. Knowing what you know, knowing what
we know we're going to get the Rick movies. And I would imagine that the Rick movies, I mean, we have Super Rick to contend with. But the idea that the Rick movies are going to be just the TV show Walking Dead up on the big screen, I think that's kind of silly. Because even something like somewhat related, even something like saying the Many Saints of Newark is just going to be Sopranos on the big screen. You're fucking crazy. Either that or you're wishful thinking because you miss the show so much. They're not the same. You know, you're not just watching a TV show on the big screen. You're not just watching a movie on the small screen. They are different fucking animals. So they have to be different. So, you know, I think that definitely goes back to, like the changes. They have to make changes. If they don't make changes, I mean, we have seen plenty of examples, none that come to mind right now because I'm looking at the Wrap It Up, Charlie. But we have seen those examples where they had
a lot of
direct, like one for one. But you know, though, one might argue
took a lot of liberties too.
They could say like, well, you know, there's a certain star-shaped individual who would beg to differ with you. But those adaptations where they say beat for beat, moment for moment. Fuck, if you want to do movie for movie, look at whatchamacallit, Within the Shower. When they fucking made the beat for beat remake with goddamn Wedding Crasher and Heish. So no, I do not think that you can walk into any adaptation or remake and say it needs to be exact or it's a fucking failure. I think you're the failure.
Well, just to round out my time, I'll ask you the same question. But the conversation I've had with a lot of people with adaptations, with things we hold as religious documents, there are a few exceptions that prove the rule in my head and my heart. There are some books, there are some comics, there are some graphic novels that I truly do believe can be one for one thrown on a big screen to some extent, but by and large, I think those are the exceptions that prove the rule. What do you got? Tacos being microwaved?
You wish.
So like Daredevil's story arc, Guardian Devil, I truly believe that could make a masterful film with very limited changes, only the necessary changes. But for the most part, I think the beauty of having something change its genre, going from a comic book to live action, going from a TV show to a movie, the fucking fun is in what's going to be different. And again, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said Rick getting movies that are just going to be 2-hour episodes from his point of view is like, that would just be such a waste.
Yeah.
Is there anything that pops into your head that like, no, this is perfect? Dune, we're seeing that they're going at it again.
Yeah, well, the Dune remake is keeping more to the source material. Ellis throughout 300. That's one might argue the just the suspicious lack of shots in the movie. Automatically, you got to say no. There's a big difference there. And certainly, he makes a good point. Star Trek does have some movies that kind of play like long episodes, but Star Trek you almost have to put under a glass dome, because Star Trek is really Star Trek's episodes were unlike any TV that was out there. So one might argue that all their episodes played like short movies, and look at it the other way around, I would say. But no, to come to a point where I would be heartbroken with any liberties taken, and obviously I don't know that it can feasibly be done, and it might be the reason why they say don't look for it, don't expect it, don't even hope for it, because we will never adapt Saga.
Yeah.
Fucking Saga, to a large degree, in as much as I would love for it to be adapted for a few reasons. Number one, because I'm a greedy son of a bitch, but also as well as I know some people, no matter how much I talk about it, will not crack open the comic or even digitally download it to read it. Will enjoy Saga the way that I have. However, if it ever did get adapted, I would be so protective of that material because I love it so much. Not because I think I'm better or smarter or better looking. Granted, it's probably the case. Probably, not always. But I would really be on needles and pins. Like, oh, you better not. Oh, what about this? Even like certain even angles of certain panels that are seared into my mind. If I don't see a 9-tittied Spider Woman assassin, I will be very upset. But for me, yeah, the short answer is Saga.
Some shit is trying to make bacon is bacon. Vegan bacon will never be bacon, so don't even try. That's Saga to me. It's like it's perfect as it is. But another thing that's perfect as it is being able to listen to music on all these beautiful streaming services.
Oh, look at the
lucky for me.
Transition in some bitch.
What's lucky for me is one of my absolutely favorite bands, Bad Mary, is available on every single music streaming service. You can listen to their entire discography on the places you already listen to music. But if you want to support them financially, you have plenty of options. You can follow them and support them on Patreon, patreon.com/Bad Mary Band, where you can just throw ducats their way. You can go to their website, badmaryband.com, and you could buy CDs, posters. They have limited edition t-shirts. You can sign up for their mailing list to get ahead on all that good stuff. And most importantly, now that the world is opening back up, they are having gigs again. They live stream. It is amazing. You can find them all across social media at Bad Mary Band. One of my favorite bands. They should be one of your favorite bands. So start showing the love and support the way they love and support this show.
Hell yeah. And Charlie's going to take some oxygen on the sidelines because that was quite the rant. But we do have to give credit where credit is due elsewhere, and that is our other sponsor, the military mage, Sergeant Finesse. You can find him right here, gaming on Facebook Gaming. You can also find him over on the purple site. That is Twitch and Facebook Gaming. He's got multiple streams a day, outstanding gaming content, supporter games, co-streams, giveaways, contests. Don't be a sucker. Check him out today. Throw him a like, a follow, a share. Consider maybe even becoming a supporter. I don't know. If you need a pick-me-up, though, it's really simple. You got to do like Neo do and follow the White Rabbit over to sneakenergy.com. Use code SARGE at checkout. So good. If you're looking for some fresh new gear, however, do yourself a favor. Go over to geeksunleashed.com. Use code SARGE at checkout is there. When Sarge is on deck, there's one thing to do, Charlie. I just salute. GG, son.
With the bills paid, dear brother, you tell me when you're ready for me to start your time.
Charlie, do me a personal favor and start my time.
Started, my friend.
Started? You hit the button?
I did. It's like
the clock is running.
The numbers are going.
Spinners.
Yeah.
Charlie.
Spinners spinning.
That's what spinners do, bro.
Spinners got to spin.
Listen, anyone who has an alternate definition of spinners is on the wrong show right now.
It's true.
Charlie, let me ask you this. Let me question you this. Who's your favorite villain?
Oof, that's a great one. My favorite villain.
And do not say John.
No, I think my favorite villain in real life is probably Vince McMahon, but in the Four Color Funnies, it would be Magneto. I think is one of my favorite
You're a Magneto
bad
fan?
guys. Yeah,
All
I love
right.
him,
It's
and I
a-
love him when he's like a total shitheel. Like I love him when he's just like, my people are no people.
he
Fuck off.
he's just one of those. Understandably so. I don't want to start off on the wrong foot and get fucking all the metal pull out of my iron pull out of my blood and all kinds of wacky shit that he does. I mean, fuck, he may have even murdered his own daughter for all we know. But frankly, that there's a whole Frank Reynolds situation. Maybe she's his daughter, maybe she's not. Either way, he's on fucking trial. Regardless,
I've been paying for child support for this bitch witch.
dude. He's sleeping in the same bed with fucking Scott. He's like, they're not even my kids. Anyways, that's a different topic. Different topic. So
Why is Scott Charlie?
well, I mean, we
I
know
want to write that comic.
we know that he knows biblically Logan. So like, it's not the first time that he was Little Spoon. That's all I'm saying. Regardless, I just want both teams to have fun.
Ellis, draw Magneto with a toe knife. Stat.
Oh, dude, he wouldn't even need to like manipulate it himself. He's just like, yeah. Oh, that's a gusher. Oh, that was a bad one. anyway,
No.
if anyone's here that does not watch It's Always Sunny, shame on you. Regardless, Magneto, Charlie, that was a surprisingly great answer on your part. I just assumed you were gonna go with like Super Shredder or something fucking goofy.
Super Shredder is pretty dope.
Damn it. So
Magneto powers.
do it, Magneto. But one now, being a Magneto lover as you are, dare I say, an acolyte. Charlie just witnessed some old school comic book knowledge right there, going to those 90s books. Anyways, knowing Magneto like you do and rooting for the purple and red, would you say that he is a sympathetic villain? As bad as he is,
Yeah.
as Krakatoan making motherfucker that he might be, would you say he's sympathetic?
100%. I think
Right.
someone's instinct to want revenge is always like a good.
Forget about revenge. Like, he has personally and seen his people been marginalized, held down, feared, rumored, and ranted against. Like, his story, much like, and yeah, I'll just throw a bunch out there, like Thanos or like regardless, this is not the topic. There are plenty of villains out there where you sit back and say, I get why he's doing or she is doing. Hela is another example. Where you say, I get why they are doing what they're doing. I understand it. I don't agree with it. Mm-hmm. It's fucked up, and they need to pay for their transgressions. But I do understand how that can happen, right?
Absolutely.
So, and one might even argue, and I might be that one, that the best villains have to be sympathetic villains to a point where at some point in the conversation you're like, you kind of almost like root for them to maybe not so much win, but not lose so badly.
Yeah.
You don't want them to get routed. Okay. But that being said, if you asked 100 comic book fans, what's your favorite villain, you would get a list. You would get a list of 10, 15, 25 characters that fit that bill that you just threw out there.
Absolutely.
Now, when I say to you, Grendel,
yes,
naturally, you're a red-blooded American man.
That's
you
true.
Think, oh shit, the animated movie Beowulf, where like we kind of saw her naked, like that's as close to Angelina Jolie naked as we're ever gonna get, not being named Brad Pitt.
Canceled.
Well, you know what? If I gotta go down,
Let it
that's a good reason.
let it be for Grendel.
So I am not talking about the CGI Beowulf movie, which I did somewhat see recently, and even though the CGI has not aged particularly great, the story is from antiquity. It's a great fucking story, and you do kind of see her naked, which naked Angelina Jolie CGI is still something. But that is not the Grendel, Charlie, that we're talking about.
Oh no.
It is not. No, we are talking about Dark Horse's own fucking Grendel the villain.
So dope.
Grendel, Charlie, and the reason why, I mean, aside from being just a fucking awesome character and a great read consistently, is a different beast from anything else that is out there, certainly that I've come across thus far. But I am putting my best foot forward here, and I am making an announcement in much the same way that I said you motherfuckers are going to love Sweet Tooth, and Sean, you did. Okay, maybe Ellis didn't love those last 2 episodes, but we'll put him over on the sidelines for
4
now
out of 6
with
ain't
love.
bad.
Guys, if you are not familiar with Grendel comic, get familiar with the Grendel comic from Dark Horse because it's coming to Netflix.
Awesome.
Grendel is coming
Awesome.
to Netflix. It's part of it's the series is written by and executive produced by Andrew Dabb, who we know from Resident Evil and Supernatural. So like a solid resume there. He's indeed going to be portrayed by, and I apologize because I'm sure this is a mispronunciation, Abu Bakar Ali. He'll be playing the titular character of Grendel. Now, if anyone is unfamiliar with this masked gentleman, I gotta tell you right now, this is not your prototypical comic book superhero story. And it's not because the weapons that are used, because there's plenty of that going around. It's not because it's a masked individual. There's plenty of those going around. Charlie just talked about 50 Spider-Men potentially. They all damn got masks on at some point. We're not even talking about the dashing GQ attire that he is often decked out in, because no one appreciates that more than myself. Charlie, the reason why Grendel is a different thing than we have ever seen in the adaptation land that we're currently living in is because Grendel is a fucking bad guy. And I'm not talking about the Gandalf version and fucking M. Bison meeting that they were having over in Wreck-It Ralph meeting land. I'm not talking about, he's not a bad guy. Charlie, he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's a fucking villain. He's not even a comedian type character who's like a bad guy, but he's like thinking, I'm a good guy. I'm doing the right things. I'm doing the shit that I gotta do. He's not an anti-hero.
He's pulled up to that road.
Punisher.
He pulled up to that road with the fork. It was like Bad Guy Avenue. No hesitation.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
What I find most interesting, and I am not as well versed in the character as you are, but I do thoroughly enjoy the character. I thoroughly enjoyed the books when I was kind of actively I fell into the character late, and one of the best things about that is you can binge like 7 years worth of content.
Isn't that so good?
It's the best.
It's not good for the hemorrhoids because eventually you gotta get off the toilet. But you're like, there's so many more to read.
I'm literally on the toilet right now. That's how connected I am.
We heard it. We heard it before while you.
That's true. That's true. When I was
number oneing.
That was number 2. I need to see a doctor.
Oh no.
But what I loved about this character, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but the character started off with good intentions. Was like, I'm going to clean up this town, and then almost immediately was like, you know what's better than cleaning up a town? Taking over a town.
You know what it
so
really
goddamn
is.
Awesome.
And I don't want to bury the show's lead because the setup is satisfying.
Wonderful.
It's more so like if I was going to try to talk somebody into reading it and eventually writing it, or watching it, I should say, not writing it. It's already been written. I would say, imagine a comic book character. Forget about hero, villain. Put that stuff. It's today your first fucking day. Forget about that stuff. White hat, black hat bullshit. I would say like just imagine a character that had a great abilities, but was like the fucking most sociopath son of a bitch that you can fucking think of, where really more than anything else just thinks of themselves first. Like they are their own priority. Now, one might argue again that you can talk about super or not super villains who also that also describes. Joker immediately comes to mind. You're like, fucking Joker is, forget about sociopath. That motherfucker, that is literally the craziest son of a bitch. Like that's the superpower, is the craziness. But even Joker, as illuminated by by this wonderful fucking movie that we just got, you can easily root for that person and still give them a little bit of a pass. Joaquin Phoenix, even as the fucking even as communist, you like to a degree, you're like, yeah, he had daddy issues. Does he wants to smash his sister? No, that's not right. Oh, he does. He does our boy dirty, fights dirty, and all that jazz. Tries to get him killed. Yeah, no, none of that is good. But there's always that little bit of like, yeah, but you know what though? All of these fucking characters, Joker, Venom, these characters eventually, Punisher is an anti-hero, right? And a lot of these characters you will see, they'll be introduced as villains and then they'll get a turn. Even your personal favorite, Magneto, has spent plenty of time on the roster of the X-Men.
Every time he braids his hair.
When Xavier went down, he's like, you know what, fuck it, I'll run the team for you. Like these characters will often have that moment of heroism where they'll swap out their black hat for a white hat. Not like Charlie in Red Dead Redemption, who'll never take that black hat off. Will just run motherfuckers over with his horse. He don't care. Charlie is the Grendel. If Grendel was in the Red Dead Redemption world, his name would be Charlie.
Well, I figured out what I'm going to name my next horse. Thank you for that.
You're welcome for that. Grendel is exclusively a bad guy. He's a bad guy. Even when he is doing something that ultimately benefits a group larger than just himself, that population of one, he's still being a dick about it. Like he's all about himself. Again, another example that came to mind was when I was thinking about this topic of conversation was, well, okay, how's that different than Deadpool, let's say, right? Deadpool is still doing what he does for the greater good. He's doing for something other than himself. He's sacrificing himself. Fucking body parts are thrown to the wind for nothing other than a B. Arthur t-shirt, and to ultimately, like he desperately does want to be the good guy. Grendel wants none of that. And I'm saying to you, Charlie, that there has never, ever been something like what we're going to be getting from this new Netflix show. We're just getting a guy. It may as well be called Wildin' Out with Grendel, because he's just fucking doing what he wants to do. Honestly, even more so than Cruella de Vil, Ellis. Even more so, the truly the one character that came to mind, at least for his initial introduction to me, was what's his face? Fucking his name escapes me right now. From Interview with the Vampire.
Oh,
the Lion Court. my thought was this all this character, and he was really the antithesis.
In
Excuse my excuse my lisp. It's late.
I now like you stole the word from my
You're
brain.
you're welcome. So
Antithesis.
sure.
Antithesis.
All right, great. So where you had Lewis, who was kind of like a Louis, who was a sweetheart of a vampire, Lestat. What is wrong with me? How did I not remember Lestat? Thank you, Ellis. Lestat the Lion Court was all about Lestat the Lion Court. So at least in that first introduction of Interview with the Vampire, the Anne Rice series of 2,000 books at this point.
Armand
Lestat,
has 12 books, so yeah.
and it shouldn't be. Armand should be a short story at best. But Lestat was really giving off Grendel vibes. He could do amazing shit, and he just did it for himself. Now, ultimately, in the same exact fashion, Lestat became like the hero. So Grendel does not. Grendel fucking stays a douchebag. Even when something happens where he's like, no, I didn't like that. It's not, spoiler alert, not because his romantic involvement is killed while he's busy learning fencing and all kinds of crazy bullshit like that. It's not because she was killed. It's because his paramour was killed. He's like, what did you just do to me? And then that fucking sends him off on a fucking on a rager. But he's avenging his own personal loss. He's not avenging this poor lovely young miss that's lying there all dead. It's about him. And I put out there, we have not had anything like this thus far. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, and again, here is where the Netflix fear is justified. Because if you sat down in front of an executive and said, we got this IP we want to bring to life, you go, awesome, what's it about? And they start listing off like, he's a dick, he's a super villain,
Great.
He's a dick, awesome, like Joker, where like we're gonna tell this like epic story about how like you should kind of feel sympathy, but like, no, not really. Okay, what's his arc? He's a dick and he gets dickier. Well, to what end? Like until he meets like a girl or a guy.
What does he do for a living? He's a writer. Oh, that's pretty interesting. But also an assassin. Okay, I guess that's that's all right.
The fact that both Suicide Squads, which like the joke is that the characters are similar, but they took both of their male leads and they were like, they're assassins who love their daughters. If Grendel was one of them, he's like, I had a daughter, threw her out, didn't like her, she was annoying. Like there is if it plays unapologetic, if they keep it true to the source material, it's going to be truly a one of one. So exciting.
I mean, truly, again, I've said it 17 times. I'm going to say it 37 times more. Nothing like this source material has been put out for general consumption. It's like when you have a taste for something that's like a little bit weird. I'll put this one out there. And for all my peeps, Hispanic Heritage Month just started. Number 21, Roberto Clemente, setting us off strong. But Charlie, I love me some Malta.
That's true.
You give me some Malta India or some Malta Goya, and I'm going to suck it down. Charlie, how do you like Malta, bro?
I hate Malta.
Yeah. You know who agrees with you? 97.2% of the people I know. And all the time I'm like, hey, try this. And they're like,
and they look at me. Bean juice? What the fuck is this? They looked
at me like I was trying to hurt them. There are certain things where you love and you say, it never even occurs to me that another person might not love this to my level of love. And when it does happen, it's still shocking. Charlie, that is my Netflix fear with this. This is such a pure concept, right? We're talking about Hunter fucking Rose being Hunter fucking Rose. And to be anything less would be a disservice to the character, but in that same vein of living in
Hope.
optimism, I can't believe that they're gonna fuck it up. I just cannot believe it. I don't think we're gonna have another Jupiter's Legacy here because there were so many moving parts that could be mishandled
That
there,
is the
and
one nice
largely
thing.
were. This is a direct. This Hunter Rose's tale, the Grendel, getting all dollied up for a night on the town of merrymaking and murderizing. That could be a credits opening. That could be an incredible Hulk opening. We're like, oh, he's a dick, but also as well as he's super good at killing people and does it all the time. All right, I'm ready. Go on with the story.
There is something just so amazing about, again, we talked about it in the opening of the show. The potential alone will make the anticipation of this series so worth it. I'm going to be desperately waiting for photos to be released. I'm going to be thirsty for that
the
trailer.
Stills are going to be dope. But you know what? My final thought on it,
terrible. It's feast or famine.
But here's the thing, and the reason I'm not just a homer, to use friend Sean's of Mercasa fame, Mocasa Vera fame. I'm not being a homer just because I like this content. The reason why I think that it's going to translate beautifully, because to make him anything other than just a fucking bad guy who's the main character of the story that you're telling would be automatically like throwing away the concept. Like, that was your elevator pitch. A bad guy who's the central character of the story. Okay, here's a fucking $18 million. Go make us 10 episodes. Anything less than that is now you're a liar, and you lied in your elevator pitch. But also, as well as just knowing the character's origin, he didn't fucking hit the stands as a fully fledged standalone character. He was like given to us in dribs and drabs, and then when we eventually got like a long form version series, we got it in the form of damn War Child, right? And it was like a 10-parter, and it was like, okay, the ongoing adventures. And then when we got to see him more, what we saw of him was episodic in its nature anyway. There were no year-long fucking arcs. There weren't like, oh, eventually he's going to go down to hell and come back over. No, there was fucking none of that. He stayed in his lane. It was Grendel doing Grendel shit with his Grendel friends. And look at, ooh, GQ Smooth doing it, baby. Dynamite. I cannot wait. This is so on point. I can see this. I can visualize it. It's up on my vision board, being a fucking awesome 1-for-1 translation. At least in terms of the character. You don't have to do shit to the character. Just build a story around it, and you got a home run.
I think this is one of those moments where the right place has the right amount of money to actualize.
Money is not a problem for Netflix.
To actualize something truly, truly special. I suspect
it's kind of fun. That's the other thing too. Like that you don't need an agenda. You're not trying to tell a fucking story. Now, granted, there are places and times and properties that should be the case. Like, you need to use platforms when you have them. Fuck, when Squirrel Girl didn't get fucking made, and I don't know if you saw
those
any of that.
Those stills are fucking incredible.
I like the moments by poor AT&T girl Lily. Like,
nothing poor about her.
What a blown fucking opportunity. But again, those are the type of stories you're like, okay, well, here is a scenario. Why though? Right? Why The Last Man though? Where you're using that platform to get across a certain story or an opinion or what have you. That's not Grendel, kid. That is not fucking Grendel. Grendel's going to kill a bunch of people, make few snarky comments, look damn good doing it. End credits. You're out.
That is, and sometimes that simplicity is the best thing about it. And that sort of simplicity is why week after week, you beautiful people tune in to US Comics Cast, available everywhere that podcasts can be heard. You can look at our beautiful faces on the Twitch, on the YouTube, on Facebook. We are live mostly every single Wednesday, but newsflash for you, I am also going to the New York AAW show on Wednesday. So I will see you beautiful people next Thursday for an all-new episode. But until then, you have a few missions.
Slacker.
You have a few
Slacker.
You have a few commands that we're throwing out your way. Your job is to like, comment, subscribe everywhere you can. Your job is to hit that share button. And your job is to, in the comment section, anywhere where you can view this episode, I want to know what rumor you're most excited about. I want to know how hip to Grendel you are. I want to know what you're thinking about Y the Last Man. And we'll be here next week doing it all over again, baby. But my dear brother, there is only one way, one single way that we end each and every episode of US Comics Cast. Why don't you tell the beautiful people how
Charlie,
it is we do the things we do?
It is so damn simple. First, you got to open up the refrigerator wide. Then you got to take the Malta out, crack it open, and knock it back. Then stroll over to your listening device of choice and turn the power on. Turn the volume up. You got to, tune Bad Mary in. Open up the window wide and scream out into the night sky. Save me, Space Girl. We out.